fifth round, 144, a quarterback who was supposed to go in the top 5, sitting there, waiting, round after round after round. In Cleveland, a city that has broken more quarterbacks than any franchise in NFL history, took the call.
So it's really quiet on the front of Cleveland media. Mary Kay, after she got debunked by Todd Monken yesterday and the day before, and she's quiet. I haven't heard from her talking about QB1, QB2, QB nothing. And I knew it was a play. And Skip Bayless may know a lot. He also alluded to the two that she probably speaks to the owner and the owner's wife, and there got to be some truth to them going with Deshaun Watson first as QB1. And the fact that Todd Monken's not involved with that decision, the fact that Andrew Berry's not involved with that decision, I find it kind of odd that the owner would give Mary Kay that kind of information. But let's just say he does. This is exactly what we're talking about with white supremacy mindset and attitude. She couldn't accept the answers that Andrew Berry gave her in those early press conferences. She couldn't accept it from Todd Monken. So she wanted to go out and jump off a limb to potentially save her career, because when Shedeur leaves Cleveland, Cleveland media goes back into the dark ages. Disappear, obsolete, irrelevant. But only my man G. Bush, he will be the spokesman for Cleveland if people want to reach out and see what's going on in Cleveland. But if Shedeur leaves or Shedeur gets benched, millions of people are not going to tune in to the Cleveland Browns. Let's keep it a buck. So all of this, and you're talking about $240 million that guaranteed the Deshaun Jackson. Shedeur Sanders already made $250 million on his first jersey, and his new jersey is set to make $300 million. So now you pass $500 million for a guy who won 4 games, 1 in the preseason, 3 out of 4 in the regular season. You think the people that add the money and count the money is just going to let that slide? Mary Kate's a loser. The rumor mill's a loser. Cleveland media are losers. That guy, the beast, the animal, whatever he is, go lose some weight. The way you speak about these young black men is a joke. You look like you can't even walk up some flight of steps. You're a joke. Shout out to G. Bush. I watch your breakdowns. You're doing an incredible job, brother. Stay at it. Get all them goofies.
It's Deion Sanders, bro. Are y'all forgetting? Are y'all forgetting who you are talking about? What are y'all talking about, man? Todd Monken was quoted as saying relationships and learning as much about these people through all channels is what is important to me. Well, what better way to do that than to talk to Deion Sanders himself? And you've already had a relationship with the kid. You guys wanted Shedeur in Baltimore. The fact that out of all of it, man, Coach Prime was gracious with his time. Out of all the good conversation.
Here's the thing about Shedeur Sanders that people don't want to talk about. He didn't just survive the draft slide. He showed up in Cleveland, one of the most skeptical football cities in America, and he started. He won games. He beat Pittsburgh. He beat Cincinnati in back-to-back weeks to end the season. And somehow, that wasn't enough. Somehow, heading into 2026, there are still people in that city who'd rather hand the keys to a quarterback who hasn't played a full season since 2020. How does that happen? That's what we're here to talk about.
You know what I'm saying? He's legit, honest, down to earth. And the one thing that came across to me that hit me so differently was, you know, he is aware of Shedeur's game just like we are. So the thing that I found refreshing was we sat there and we talked for a long time about just football and about some of the things that Shedeur needs to do better, about some of the things that he's about his game.
When you go back and watch the 2025 NFL Draft, there's a moment sometime around the third round where the vibe in Shedeur Sanders' family room changes. The phone isn't ringing. And it's not because teams didn't know who he was. Every front office in the league knew exactly who Shedeur Sanders was. They'd watched every throw. They'd studied every snap. The slide wasn't about talent. It was about narrative. It was about his father. It was about the cameras and the brand and the noise that follows the Sanders name everywhere it goes. 32 NFL teams looked at one of the most accurate college quarterbacks in recent memory and decided the story around him was more trouble than the player inside of him. Cleveland took him at 144, 5th round. And with that pick, they either made the steal of the draft or they handed the media another chapter to write. Let's be honest about Cleveland for a second. This is a city that cheered when Baker Mayfield got run out, that watched Deshaun Watson get handed a fully guaranteed $230 million contract after everything that came with that situation, and they still had hopes for the guy. But Shedeur Sanders, the kid who finished the season strong, who beat their division rivals in consecutive weeks, some of those same voices couldn't wait to undermine him. When Shedeur graduated from Colorado this spring, a real moment, a real achievement, a Browns reporter covered it like she was filing a police report. Fans noticed, the internet noticed, and here's the thing, this isn't new. Garrett Bush, one of the few Cleveland media voices who actually watches film, actually breaks down tape play-by-play, he's been saying it out loud. The local media has had a problem with Shedeur Sanders since day one, not because of what he's done on the field, but because of who he is off of it.
A relationship with the kid. You guys wanted Shedeur in Baltimore. The fact that out of all of it, man, Coach Prime was gracious with his time. Out of all the good conversation and dialogue and points that was made, this is what y'all chose to make a segment about. Y'all didn't choose to make a segment about when he addressed Shedeur being able to read defenses. Y'all didn't choose to do none of that. Y'all chose to talk about, oh, well, if Coach Prime comes in the locker room, it's going to look like, oh, you got your dad in here caping for trying to put the word in for you.
Now, the Deion Sanders interview with Garrett Bush. This is where it gets interesting. Coach Prime sat down, said he wants to meet Monken, not as Shedeur's dad, but as his former coach, someone who knows how the kid processes pressure, how he learns, what makes him go from good to great. And Monken himself has said publicly that learning about his players through all channels matters to him. So what did ESPN Cleveland pull from that entire conversation? Not the football breakdown, not the insight on Shedeur's growth or his ability to read defenses. They took one clip, the one about Deion potentially coming into the locker room, and turned it into a segment about optics. That's the choice they made. Meanwhile, Coach Prime talked football for over an hour. Real stuff. He talked about what Shedeur needs to fix. He was honest about it. And anyone who actually watched that interview walked away thinking, this man knows his son's game. But that's not the version of the story that certain people wanted to tell. Let's talk football, because that's what actually matters. Shedeur Sanders walked into Todd Monken's first voluntary minicamp practice this spring and got the first team reps. Monken's choice, his coaching staff's recommendation. He showed up, put in the work, and when asked about the new coaching staff, he didn't complain about last season, didn't take shots at anyone. He said, "Coach spoke life into me, and when you do that, you get the best result." That's a guy who's locked in. The competition is real. Watson's still there, Dylan Gabriel's still in the room, and Monken isn't handing anything to anybody. He's made that clear. But Shedeur's getting reps. Monken's calling him a guy with elite playmaking ability. He's seeing what the rest of us saw at Colorado, what we saw in those final 7 games last season. This kid can play.
For me to be able to land that interview isn't just for me. It's for all independent content. It's all for all the people who are out there who is just, have passion for telling stories and have passions for the truth and have passions for, cultivating and being able to do a grassroots effort with their people. This is what I love to do. So that for all the independent media guys out there, for all the guys that, all of the people who do it on YouTube, whether that's Quincy Carriers, whether that's the FB Teams, whether that's Simply Ball Dropping, whether that's...
Here's the pressure Shedeur Sanders is carrying into 2026. He's not just competing for a starting job. He's competing against a media machine in his own city that has already written its preferred headline. He's competing against the ghost of a trade that cost Cleveland 3 first-round picks and hasn't returned a healthy quarterback in 4 seasons. He's competing against doubt, and he's been doing that his entire life. The kid grew up in the shadow of one of the most famous athletes in American sports history. Every throw he made in college was filtered through the lens of whose son is he. Every mistake was magnified. Every win was asterisked. And yet, here he is, in Cleveland, still standing. The 2025 season ended with Shedeur Sanders beating Pittsburgh and Cincinnati in back-to-back weeks. Not the team's first-round pick, not their $230 million quarterback, the 5th-round pick they almost didn't take. People can choose to ignore that. Local media can bury it under controversy and clickbait. Analysts can keep picking apart his footwork or his family situation or whatever gets the most engagement this week. But the tape doesn't lie. And Shedeur Sanders, he keeps showing up. Whether Cleveland is ready to admit it or not, the quarterback room just got a lot more interesting. In this story, it's far from over. And look, if you're watching this far in, you actually care about the real story, not the hot takes, not the narrative. Hit that subscribe button. We cover what actually matters. Always have.